everybody, and welcome to RAMP, Real Access Motivates Progress, live Wednesday night podcast. You know, when you see this face on your Facebook page on Wednesday, you know you're going to be talking about a great topic and a great resource here in Rhode Island or across the country, and tonight is no different. Tonight we have these fine people from Rhode Island APSE, Employment for All, and I cannot wait to share all the incredible work that they do tonight. So thank you, everybody, for joining me tonight.
Thank you
for having us.
We're going to get right into it tonight. We're going to do a little round robin for you to introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are and what you do. Kim, we'll start with you.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Kim Einloth, and I am the Chief Operating Officer at Perspectives Corporation. And I am also the co-president of Rhode Island APSE, which stands for the Association of People Supporting Employment First. And that's who I am, and that's what I do.
That is exciting. Rory, how about you?
Good evening. My name is Rory Carmody. I work for Access Point, Rhode Island. I provide employment supports to folks with developmental disabilities and other disabilities. And I also sit on the Governor's Commission on Disabilities with Tina.
That's awesome. And yes, she is our chair and I am her vice chair. I am her second in command. She is our fearless leader that we cannot do anything without. So thank you, Rory. Key O'Donnell, tell us a little bit about you, who you are and what you do.
Hi, my name's Key. I'm the Director of Day and Employment Services at the Fogarty Center, similar capacity to what Rory described, and also have the honor of serving as co-president of the Rhode Island APSE chapter, and also serve on the National Board of Directors as the Northeast Regional Delegate.
We are so excited. And before we get going any further, Rory is wearing the amazing shirt from our Accessibility is Beautiful event, our very successful event in September, that Kim from Perspectives Corporation donated all of those t-shirts for us, and we can't be more thankful because I see them out and about in Rhode Island everywhere, and we can't thank you enough for that. So Kim, tell us a little bit about Rhode Island APSE and what it does for people in Rhode Island.
Sure. Well, I'll start with the fact that it's a national organization, and it's really the only grassroots organization that supports employment first. That is their sole purpose. That is what we believe in. And that's what we do here in Rhode Island. So Rhode Island is just one chapter of many. And we believe that employment first should be offered as the first and preferred service that's delivered to people with disabilities that are receiving public funding or services through public funding. And so we believe in real jobs and real wages. We believe that anybody who wants to work can work. And that's what we stand for, and that's what we advocate for. So I don't know, Key and Rory can certainly join me in describing what it is that we do on a national and local level, but that's really it in a nutshell.
Yeah, Rory, I'd like to have you give a little bit more take on that, what it means to you and what it does for Rhode Island from your perspective.
What it does for Rhode Island, it holds it up as kind of a leader in doing employment services for people as part of the national conference to explain Rhode Island is moving forward of our DOJ consent, which finally closed sheltered work programs and did away with the 14C certificate that allowed people to pay individuals with disabilities sub-minimum wages. So we're kind of leading the charge there. Rhode Island is one of only, I think, 7 or 8 states, guys, that doesn't have an institution anymore. We're not segregating people residentially. And nationally, 40 plus states still operate large warehousing institutions for people with disabilities. So Rhode Island has always been on the forefront of moving the needle forward. And I think APSE just so speaks to our mission and our drive to do that, both on a national and on a local level. And personally, I couldn't be happier with the leadership at Rhode Island APSE with both Kim and Key. They really are state treasures, national treasures too, when we think about supporting people with disabilities.
Oh, I agree with you. Key, give us your perspective and tell us what some of the obstacles that you have with getting people employed here in Rhode Island.
Well, I think it really first starts with really empowering people to make decisions in their own lives, find their own career path, find the place that they belong, and not just to participate, but to contribute. So I find great strength not just in a grassroots organization that has a strong state chapter, but also looking at my colleagues nationally and finding that, this is more than just, I think, a movement for people with disabilities. And by the way, Rhode Island APSE is a cross-disability group. But really looking at the civil rights movement and where we have the opportunity to find our place in helping advance it.
I agree with you. And the first thing I would like to tell every business out there that's listening tonight, because I know there are thousands, people with disabilities are going to be the hardest worker that you ever employ. And yes, do not count them out. I am in a wheelchair, and last summer I was swinging a sledgehammer, putting floors together, painting ceilings, all from my wheelchair. So don't tell us what our ability can do. Let us show you how we can benefit your company and open your minds to more employment and more abilities. Kim, tell some of the businesses, some of the small accommodations that they may have to make and why it would be important for them to hire somebody of disability.
Sure. So like you said, Tina, I believe that too, that people with disabilities being welcomed into the workforce is absolutely a win-win. I believe diverse and inclusive businesses tend to thrive, and people who have disabilities, don't count them out. I couldn't agree more. I know that some of the people that work that have a disability are some of the most creative people that I've come across, and good problem solving skills, and shouldn't be counted out, to put it simply. So I think that there are several businesses that will do well broadening their scope of who their potential employees are. And sometime accommodations can come in a very small, if not any cost. Sometimes it's about a schedule adjustment. Sometimes it's about proper seating or proper lighting, or strategies that will actually benefit the full workforce, not just the person with the disability. So we find when that universal design is implemented, everybody wins. The employer wins because they have a strong workforce. The workforce wins because they're employed and contributing and have a purpose and matter. So that's that's it in a nutshell. I think that accommodations can come in all sizes, but should not be a barrier often. They're very, very low cost, if not free.
I completely 100% agree with you on that. And the people who win the most is the general public, your clientele, because they get to learn that we're the norm. We're not different. We're not, we shouldn't be preyed upon, that we're going to get better, or we shouldn't be, disability is not a negative term. So you can actually see and empower other people by saying, look, if they can do it, why can't I? So I agree. Everybody wins when you employ everybody. Rory, you wear so many different hats, from Access Point to the Governance Commission to being on APSE. How does that all correlate to you, and why is it so important for you to work with the disability community?
I think it's an important group of people who have been underrepresented for a long time, who have been kind of disenfranchised from their communities. And if you think of any population, roughly 20 to 30% of any population identifies as having a disability, which means 200,000-300,000 of our fellows fall into that make it possible to folks into our communities. If COVID taught us one thing, it taught us that all of our folks who were working showed up every day, and our direct support professionals showed up when other people didn't. So the commitment to supporting people with disabilities isn't just, it's not just a motto, it's what people are living and doing every day. And our direct support professionals went above and beyond every day, coming into work, dealing with critical situations, and never wavering in their support for people with disabilities or the mission. And even during COVID, we were finding jobs for people, and employers, I think, finally began to realize the strength and the untapped resource of people with disabilities. And as Tina and I have often said, being in a disability group is the largest minority group out there, but it is also a group that we will all find ourselves in someday, either by accident, age, disability or other medical condition. So I want to make sure there is a robust service system available when I or my family needs those services.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, COVID gave everybody a glimpse into the disability community. I've said it 1,000 times that everybody got to be part of the disabled community. You couldn't get into where you wanted to get into. You couldn't be with who you wanted to be with. You were exiled and isolated. The good part is when we were told we couldn't be out and about, we couldn't work from home, we couldn't go to the doctors from home, we couldn't encounter everybody. It all happened within a month's time where we could do all of these things from home with the biggest of grace and the movement forward that now it's the norm. You know, and that's the whole thing, is being a person of disability and hiring them. It should be the norm. It shouldn't be, you know, an extra additive. Key, give us your intake of, you know, the disability community and what some of the jobs are that you have found for them, and what some of the employers, were they surprised that this community could fit so well into their business?
Absolutely, Tina. So a couple of things. First, I'm glad you really bring up the small business community, because really our role as business developers and consultants is a two-customer approach. Yes, we serve the individual with disabilities, but we also serve the business. So being able to have access to those decision makers, to have them understand that this is not charity, but as Rory's point, an undertapped resource is very empowering for the community. And when you start to look at the strategies that we help implement, it really isn't less about placing people with disabilities and more about following them to the industries that they want to expand their career options with, and finding a mutually beneficial approach where it may not always be the job posting of yesterday, but more where a customized approach strategy meeting unmet need can really meet the labor demands of tomorrow. And I think that's where, whether you start to look at small businesses or large, you start to have a talent acquisition approach, which I think is very supportive of where we all want a diverse workforce that's going to lead us into the 22nd century.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And what people don't understand is by 2030, when the baby boomers in 2 years start hitting 60 and older, half of Rhode Island's population and the country is going to be using mobility devices. So they need to be physically accessible. They need to have that plan. This is going to be your workforce. If it's half the community out there, this is going to be your workforce. You need to plan for it today. You got 9 years to get yourself ready. Or might as well close your doors now, because you'll be shutting down your business if you alienate half the population. Nobody wants to do that. So we're here to help you in an unconfrontational way, in a positive way, the most affordable way possible out there. I don't know who wants to take this, but I'm going to throw this one out there. What are some of the what are some of the most job openings for somebody of disability, or what was the most surprising job that people were like, wow, you know, that could really be handled by somebody?
I'd like to start off. A young woman that I support with intellectual and developmental disabilities had tried to serve her country by enlisting in the armed forces. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to actuate that dream, but as someone who had volunteered for Pride Fest, the Air Show, and a number of other capacities, as well as having a previous job at Gillette Stadium, which we know can be a little rough, even if the Patriots win or lose a game, had actually over a couple months ago just been hired at the airport in a position that recognizes her personal need for assuring that she's seen as someone with value and contributions and some authority, while also getting a really good pay rate for doing some pretty intense work. What I did not know out of that position was those people that actually carry the baggage for, say, TF Green Airport are also the last line of defense that actually parks the airplane when you're looking at actually offboarding passengers. So to me, again, it's about following people's dreams and not putting people with disabilities in a box as far as saying what industries do they typically occupy, but really supporting their dreams and seeing what types of industries can they occupy.
I love the way you said that. That was like so perfect. Cause like I said, we get marginalized. We get like, everybody's like, oh, you're in a wheelchair, you can't do that. don't tell me I can't do it, because my next words to you is watch me. I will find a way. It may not look the way you wanted it to look, but I will find a way to accomplish a task. Like I'll tell you, best free therapy ever is swinging a sledgehammer, knocking down walls. I recommend it to everybody. Do it at some point, because I'll tell you, during COVID, it was the best free therapy. I could be a therapist at this point. Just give everybody a sledgehammer and let them go at it. It's awesome. Who wants to add to that? Any other ideas or situations of people that got employed that were shocked about? Or go ahead, Kim.
Sure. Yeah. So I don't know about shocked about, but I think it's almost the opposite as far as the variety of industries where people will explore based on their own personal achievements, their skill set, their motivation. And so what I love to see is that we are working hard to make sure that people have equity and access to all of the jobs that are out there. So those high demand jobs, we want to give people the opportunity to compete. Sometimes people will do we'll use different strategies like job sharing, or we'll do some job carving, or we'll do what Key had referenced, some customized employment. And that is when you really look at that business and you work with that business and you look at the job seeker and figure out where that match can be made. And everybody wins, as I said before. So I don't know that there's really been anything shocking, but like you, Tina, if somebody says, oh, that person will never find a job, that person will never work, I will say, watch them. We'll find that. We won't give up.
Have you had any business owners shocked by the person you sent to them, thinking that this wasn't going to work out, and then completely shocked that it was like probably the best hire that they made?
I certainly know that there have been businesses that have been very impressed.
I think sometimes
with the people
employees
that they've hired.
Go ahead, Rory.
And there's also no such thing as a disabled job or job for the disabled. It's about a job that any person would have. We're competing on the same level. And I think sometimes employers think charitably and say, well, I don't want them not to fit in or people not to get along with them. And then once a person is in, they become, a central and important part of that employment situation. And it just gives people perspective about their employees and the width and breadth of their skills, which, we have a lot of folks who are working in retail things, and people were concerned, well, they can't run a cash register. No, but they can do everything else. And people prefer not to do some things anyway. So we're matching those skills up with your employees to get the best fit. And ultimately you get the best bang for your buck.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the one thing that I would like everybody to know is that we don't want to stand out. We don't want to be different. We don't want to be treated with kid gloves.
Right.
We want to be treated like everybody else. If I did something wrong in the workplace, I want you to reprimand me that you would reprimand anybody, or, guide me in the right direction. Don't treat me differently because I move around differently, or I may look differently or act differently. We want to be treated the same. And I think if people could get past that, I think this would become a normal situation for everybody. Key, can you give us a little bit more on that type of topic?
Sure. So I think, how do people get past that? The same we get past anything. We have real life exposure and experience to seeing the benefit, not talking about it, seeing the benefit, whether that's someone in a hiring capacity, someone in a similar HR capacity, or really, and most importantly, customers and coworkers who don't look at their counterpart that may be affected by a disability any different, because quite frankly, they're challenged to keep up the pace with their coworker, as it should be in a business. Again, I mentioned it's not so much charity. And one thing that I think you want to underscore is the importance of natural supports, but also sometimes fading out of paid supports. So there might be some people that might benefit from the use of what's known as a job coach. That job coach can help alleviate the perceived onboarding risk and need for training with a business, while also really cultivating those connections so that a person doesn't just have a job, but one that they fit in with that might be able to build those same bonds as I'm sure all of us have benefited with in the workforce.
That is so powering, that you say that. I think that's so enriching. What I want to say is, with 50% of the population, 26% right now, 1 in 4 people have a disability. As we're getting older, somebody's going to be using a mobility device, either temporary or permanently, starting to lose hearing, dementia sets in. So there isn't anybody out there in the world that you're going to come across that doesn't have some relationship to somebody of disability. Now you figure if they can see those people in the workforce, when they're out and about, when they're out at a retail store, when they're out at the convention center going to a thing, and they can see it, it's going to normalize it. It's going to make that person feel that their counterpart or their loved one is out there, is loved, is wanted, is needed, and not be so coddling to them as a loved one as well, because they can say, look, if this one has the same disability as so-and-so, look what they're doing. Maybe they can do the same thing. I mean, everybody is an individual, so you have to take that into account too. Kim, could you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, absolutely. I think, often we'll think about this work that Rory, Key, and I are involved in a way where we're talking about one person at a time. And I think that that's where we've seen most of our success. So the references made so far about there really aren't jobs that are good for people with disabilities, or maybe there are, but that's not necessarily how we think of it. We think of it, but we start with the person, we think about the business, we figure out those needs, those matches. And I think we look forward to a day where people are visible. And I mean all people. So Key and Rory know this about me, that I am a fierce equal rights fighter, because I believe that all people are equal. And that's not just limited to disability. And so when we can live in a time, or when we can get to that place that we all envision, where people are treated as equals, where people have access, the point you were talking about, Tina, the future and what it looks like, businesses are going to need to get smart about this, and they're going to need to consider their customer base. They're going to need to think about their workforce, and they're going to need to shift and do the right thing and make employment accessible for everyone.
I love that. And one of the best things that I love is going on job interviews, because I don't never disclose that I'm in a wheelchair prior to showing up. I don't need to. Nobody has to disclose anything about them until they have to. So I never have to tell. But I'll tell you how many job interviews I showed up and I couldn't get in the front door, and they're like, you're late for your appointment. I'm like, no, I'm actually here. I'm out front. I can't get in. Or I roll in and they're like, oh, you're in a wheelchair. I'm like, yeah, and you know what I mean? So Rory, can you give us a little bit of points about that, of when you need to disclose and when you don't need to disclose? And I love the shock factor, because I just think I love to watch people's faces. It's mind-boggling to me.
Well, it's interesting. There's a great article written by Richard Pimentel, the father of the ADA, called The Art of the Disclosure. And he talks about how each individual has to be comfortable with his or her identity, and how they want to share that information. Spend a great deal of time with our folks helping them to understand what it is they need to share on an interview, what accommodations they might need to have, and how to go about sharing that information about themselves. Now, certainly a person who has a physical disability, it's an obvious when they meet you, but there are other people who have hidden disabilities, or disabilities that aren't that easy to see. So I think the important thing, like Kim speaks to, is the idea of equal rights, where saying that you have a disability is no different than saying I'm left-handed. Kim's right-handed. It will be that inconsequential at some point. But the art of the disclosure is something that's really important, because you do want to make the employer comfortable, in the meeting. You do want the individual to be comfortable when they're going in for the interview as well. So there's no easy answer to that. It's very individualized, and it can change over time. I've had individuals say, I'm not saying nothing, and then may say, I might want to tell them my reading, or I might want to tell them this. And we're like, yeah, and that might work well. So it's very, very individualized. It goes along with the idea of the person-centered planning, that the person is driving those decisions. And that's what we try to do. So it's kind of a long-winded answer for saying there's no set answer.
Yeah,
It's really
I agree with you,
individualized.
because there's so many people that have invisible disabilities that may never disclose that they have one, with whether it be mental health or a traumatic stress disorder that may never come up in that job, or whatever. So there's so many disclosures that nobody even has to make. And who's to say what normal is anyway? Because I know a lot of people who fit the normal category that have more issues than I do when it comes to getting a job. I drive with my hands. They may not be able to drive, or, you know what I mean? I can do this. They may not. I mean, they can never tell me they're sold out of seats. I bring my own. So, it's all good. I always have a chair to sit in. So it works for me. You know what I mean? So who's to say what normal actually is? Key, what I would like you to do is tell people how they can contact you and when would be the best time for an employer or an employee trying to get employment. When is the best time for all of that to take place?
I'm sorry, did you say
Key
Key or Kim? I'm sorry.
Oh, Key.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said Kim. So you can certainly contact us. We are the chapter of Rhode Island APSE. We also work for a network of provider organizations. So I'd like to say that when someone's, involved in the APSE network, it's nice because they have the balance of heart and head, meaning that not only do they have the proven effective strategies that we've seen to really make a dent within the business community, but they also have that ethical balance and values training that I find to be very unique within this circle and why I'm so magnetized to it. So you can certainly look us up at Rhode Island APSE at apse.org and email us there. We also have a Facebook page. We've been trying to get more and more in the media, and thank you for the opportunity for today. And just to very quickly circle around about one thing you mentioned, and to also use the example that I did around airlines. I had heard an article today about how really airline travel hasn't been changed nor accessed since 1986, about 4 years earlier than the ADA, which addressed public transportation and things like that. So there are all kinds of headway that we can make collectively and collaboratively when it comes towards informing public policy. So one thing that Rhode Island APSE is fairly keynote for is a legislative advocacy event we call Take Your Legislator to Work Day. And Take Your Legislator to Work Day is as simple as a person with disabilities being empowered in their workforce with a business that is benefiting while informing those lawmakers that, again, this is not about a charity or a handout, but simply about opening up the doors of opportunity. We at Rhode Island APSE, I feel, have thrived in being able to utilize that model and really informing not just our state legislators, but our federal Congress and counterparts as well. And we've been very blessed as far as within this past year, because of COVID, we held a virtual Take Your Legislator to Work Day that followed 3 people in essential positions, but also highlighted their essential supports. So when we start to think about how really it's not just about our economy coming back stronger, but think about the underlying supports that may also drive that economy. And that's why it's so blessed to be a part of this group. And really, quite frankly, it's again, a civil rights movement and something that I feel hits home, whether it's now or a couple of years from now, where we might need a little bit of accommodations ourselves.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, especially with the airlines. I mean, you could read negative articles all day long how they destroy 26 wheelchairs a day. So flying in your wheelchair really is something that needs to be addressed. But if you talk to them positively and you make friends, it's all on how you approach them. Your wheelchair stays in one piece because they take a little bit more towards you when, you know what I mean? Which it shouldn't be that way, but you got to do what you got to do, and you got to handle the means that you got to handle. Kim, is there any context that you would like people to know, or when an employee or employer should contact you?
Sure. Yeah, we would welcome any contact. As Key mentioned, he mentioned the Rhode Island APSE at apse.org email that anybody can use, whether you're a job seeker or you're a business looking to employ this untapped resource or this untapped workforce. I also put in the chat the apse.org website where you can learn everything about APSE, again, the Association for People Supporting Employment First. And I put the Facebook page up there, as well as a little bit of information on the Take Your Legislator to Work Day that we have managed to use as a really wonderful way to educate and to make sure that we're advocating and making sure that people have a seat at the table, and making sure that people are seen as competitive workers and of value to their existing workforce. I think it's critical that businesses change the way that they're thinking. And I think it's the perfect time. The time is now for businesses to be thinking differently, knowing that there are workforce shortages across industries, across the nation. It is a problem, and people need to start getting smart about who they're hiring and how they're going to conduct business going forward.
Yeah, and when somebody has something to
I think
prove, they are a better employee. So you are so right. Rory, what was that?
it really is an economic issue more than it is a human rights issue. And if we look at it that way, and we look at the disposable income of people with disabilities who care about them, you're talking billions of dollars. And businesses, if they're smart, they'll want to be able to get that money. So they'll want to make their businesses more accommodating to people with disabilities by hiring people with disabilities, making sure their stores are accessible to people with disabilities, and recognizing that there is an economics to this movement. It's not just about doing something good for people. It's a way businesses will keep open. And I think of as organizations moving out kind of our mind from something good, really be the headhunt. We're providing opportunity to you, and we're also a resource to business. We spend a great deal of time with the employers we work with, offering to do either training around disability awareness, sensitivity, helping them if they have employees or families of employees who need referrals for services. So we become valuable to the employer as well. So we train at different businesses. I train at the police academy just to make sure the proper information about disability awareness, sensitivity, and resources is out there. It's less, again, when it's not the idea of a hand out, it really is a hand up.
I couldn't agree
agree
more,
with you,
Rory.
Keith.
And just to add to that, certainly I think it's a cross-aisle, bipartisan, and even in today's politically heavy climate, one that anyone can get behind. Because to Rory's point, it's about people who are lessening their dependence on both federal and state funding, while also contributing to the system by way of taxes. And studies have shown that many people who earn income become vessels of economic stimulus and spend that same type of income within their respective communities. And I'll also just make a somewhat shameless plug that we are a membership-driven organization, and one that not only has an impact within the state of Rhode Island, but has a strong federal advocacy component. So when you actually are a member of Rhode Island APSE, you're fueling the difference, not just in the state, but beyond.
Well, RAMP is totally behind APSE, and we are a big supporter of you guys. But I mean, let's break it down to the workforce for dummies. They have all those dummies books for your computer, but you let more people in, you hire more people, they bring family and friends, they spend more money, they make more money to spend more money at other businesses. Everybody's bottom line grows. The more money we put into people's pockets, the more money they put into the economic situation, especially buying local. So where is the downside to all of this? You're employing people that can actually work and contribute and be the best employees that you have. They're going to spend money. They're going to bring their family and friends in. They're going to spread the word that your place is accessible for all people and inclusive. It's a no-brainer. I just don't understand where the barrier is, because More people means more money. More money means your business stays thriving, even through COVID. Because I'll tell you, disabled people spent money during COVID just like everybody else. Disabled people got delivery just like everybody else. Our money matches everybody else's money. We don't have our own set of money that has wheelchair people on it. It's the same money that everybody else has. So let's, you know what I mean? Let's be one. Let's be unified. Let's make it work. Kim, we're nearing the end of the hour. I want you to give everybody your best plug and the biggest thing you want somebody to take away from all of this. I'm going to ask you all the same questions. So Kim's on the spot. You all got time to think about it.
Yeah. So I think my message first is treat people as your equal. And I think when you come from that place, you will discover that there is a lot more we can do together than by marginalizing people, by secluding people, by segregating people, by treating them differently, to your point, Tina, that you so eloquently described. So what I'll say is sometimes businesses will hire people who it's not a match and it doesn't work out. And I would say that that's just as true for a person with a disability and a person without a disability. And there are some businesses that may not have had a good experience. But again, I would challenge them to think about, is that solely the people that have a disability, or is that really their experience across the board? So I would think that anybody who has, as a business, hired somebody and it hasn't worked out, I would challenge you to think about how you can work differently. There is a person in our industry of people supporting people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Mark Gold is his name. And he would say, try another way. And that is one of the sayings that I hold dear to the work that I do and the way that I live my life, because nothing is impossible, right? Everything is possible. And so my last message will be that give it a try. Think about how you can strengthen not only the workforce, but Rhode Island, this nation. Think about how we can benefit from thinking differently about people who are different from one person. And to your point, Tina, what is normal anyways?
Right. And I agree with you.
Thank you for this opportunity.
And by saying the word impossible, you're right. Nothing is possible, because if you break impossible down, it just says I'm possible, and I know I'm possible. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. So that's the way I like to look at it. Rory, let's have your go at this.
Mine is just take a chance, try it. You got nothing to lose and a lot to gain. You know, there's so many benefits to it, and I think people get nervous, and I think you're afraid of what you don't know. Get out there, meet people, do stuff. We will make it incredibly easy for you, either internships or job shadows, and it will make it incredibly easy. And then the other thing I would say is make sure you buy Rhode Island Monthly this month to celebrate Tina Pedersen, who won the Bannister Award for inclusion this month. So I'm sure she will sign a copy later. But just get out there and do it is really all there is to it. And we're there to help and to support.
Yeah, and I agree with you, because the fear of the unknown is the worst thing for anybody, whether you have a disability or not. It's the fear of the unknown. The one thing I can say, with being a 4-time cancer survivor, 3-time stroke survivor who now utilizes life from a wheelchair, I learned how to live. I don't put anything off anymore. I live each day as it's my last. I never say no. I always say yes. And if my eyes are open, it is a great day to make a difference in this world. So get past your fear, because what's the worst that you're going to happen? I fall out of my chair on a daily basis. It is not the worst thing in the world. I crawl back in it. It takes me about an hour, but I can crawl back in it and continue on my day. So take it, like Lori said, get past your fear, take a chance, and make a difference in this world, because every single person in this world can make a difference. Key, let's have your take and tell people what you want them to know.
Well, Tina, I couldn't agree more with you. We all fall, but it's how we pull ourselves back up that defines us. And to quote another hero of mine, Denise Bissonnette, who once said that it's really not about the barriers. People with disabilities have everything they need to be successful in this world. It's just about having the doors of opportunity being creaked open just a bit in that one shot. So I think it's about also us as professionals in our charge in this. And I'm so very grateful for the organizations, whether it's Access Point, Perspectives Corporation, or the Fogarty Center, and the support that our leadership gives us to not just empower the role that we have and we're paid for, but be able to advance what isn't there yet and make it an actual pathway for our community. And when I mean our community, it's one that still needs some taking back. So let's do this better together. And thank you so very much for the honor and opportunity to be with you all today.
One thing I always say is we are stronger together, and not one of our organizations are going to make a dent in this world without each other. So whether you're using Perspectives Corporation, Access Point, Rhode Island, the Fogarty Center, Rhode Island APSE, RAMP, or any other of the organizations that are out there, who cares who gets the credit? Who cares who makes the movement? As long as the movement happens, as long as people get hired, and as long as we're spending our money in your establishments and keeping them thriving and thriving, that's all that matters in this world. And that's the bottom line, is we are stronger together. We need to all work together and make a difference in this world. As my favorite saying, don't just sit there, make a difference. To me, it's literal, but for everybody else, it's, you know what I mean? However you want to take it. Kim, give us the contact information again.
Sure. Yeah. Anybody can get in touch with us, whether you're a job seeker or a business, or just somebody who's really interested and wants to join us in our quest to level the playing field, right? You can reach us at riapse@apse.org. I've put it in the chat, and you're welcome to click on it. You can reach any one of the three of us and the rest of our board. There, I think you make a great point, Tina. We're not in this for the credit. We are in this to create a movement, to continue the movement. We believe that people have equal rights, and equal rights to employment is one of the most important things. There's so much value in working that go far beyond the paycheck. It's about belonging. It's about acceptance. It's about purpose. It's about having a skill that somebody needs and wants to pay you for. Everybody matters, and everybody's eligible.
It does. I want to give you guys all 1 minute to talk about your day jobs, as per se, to give a little bit about what it is you do at your day job, because you know we all wear many hats. So if you guys can all give us a round robin of, we'll start with Key on this one. I won't put you on the spot, Kim. Key, give us a 1 minute tutorial of what the Fogarty Center does.
So the Fogarty Center supports people in a host of capacities, but holistically and entirely. We have a wide variety of early childhood supports, all the way to transitional supports to adult services. Again, with a focus on community integration and contributions. And we're also the largest provider of what's known as self-directed supports in the state. And that's a little different model where people are able to be their own employer and hire the supports that they want and be in control of the dollars that they have through Medicaid. In a nutshell, it's all about the team that supports me and the people that really we support and serve. And that's where I'm blessed to have people that also have experienced disability in their lives that work on this team. And I'm grateful for the experience, because I'll tell you what, I continue to learn, and I'm just very, very grateful for the platform to continue doing that. I come from a family with people who are affected with disability. And I also have an experience where I grew up in a sheltered workshop myself. Alongside people with disabilities. So it's been nice to be able to see the transformation statewide, but we're just getting started.
Give us the Fogarty Center's website.
www.fogartycenter.org. That's with an A, and it's the namesake of the late Senator John E. Fogarty, who was one of the first people to help empower people out of institutions in Rhode Island and lead the movement.
Thank you. Rory, give us your 1 minute of Access Point, Rhode Island, and also don't forget to give us your website and how we can contact you.
Sure. www.accesspointi.org. We are one of kind of like the old ARC agencies, so we started off with sheltered work too. We provide services to kids with disabilities in an inclusive preschool and kindergarten, all the way up to senior services for folks. We have day programs, employment, of course, recreation, clinical, apartments, shared living, in-home supports, the whole kind of array of services for people with disabilities.
Thank you. And Kim, give us the down low on Perspectives Corporation. They don't just do t-shirts, even though they do those fabulous. They do a lot of other things too.
It's true. So I put the website in the chat. It's perspectivescorporation.com. And we are an organization that supports people with disabilities. At a very young age, we provide PASS and HBTS services. We also consult with people who are in babies who are in early intervention that are deaf or hard of hearing. We have a department dedicated specifically to the deaf and hard of hearing and provide services, like I said, in early intervention all the way through end of life. And we provide different services and day services, employment services, adult residential services. We have creative living situations. We have shared living arrangements. It's all on our website, and I would invite you to visit our website. We're very active on social media. You can like us on Facebook. We have a Twitter account. We have an Instagram account. We want to be visible, not Perspectives, the people that we support and provide services to. We want them to have a seat at the table, and we work hard every day to do that. So thank you so much, Tim. Really appreciate
I'm
this
going to ask
opportunity.
you guys to I'm going to ask you guys to make sure you go to the Facebook Live on the rant page and put all of those links, because the chat here is only for us. It's not for the general public to see. So make sure you go to the live and put those links in. Rory, I want you to give us the 1 minute on the GCD. Since you're the chairperson, I'm going to let you take that one, so that way we cover them as well.
All right. The Governor's Commission on Disability has been around since the 80s. And it really came into focus to level the playing field again for disabilities in the state of Rhode. It brought I think in this, it covers everything, legislation to access to public buildings. We have hearing committees, accessibility committees, legislation committees. It's all geared to make sure that everything that we do within the state of Rhode Island meets the needs of people with disabilities, protects the rights, the civil rights of people with disabilities, and makes sure that people have a way to redress issues. If it's an unfair housing practice, if it's problems with conditions under the ADA, things like that, we have that ability to do that and to influence, I think, legislators on legislations that is appropriate for people with disabilities and removes barriers that have been impediments to people with disabilities. You know, a couple of years ago, the Deaf and Hard of Hearing community came to us because political ads weren't closed captioned, so they couldn't understand, they couldn't receive the message from people who are running for public office. So we were able, with legislative committee, to create an opportunity for legislators that provided political ads closed captioned in the state of Rhode Island. Just an easy way of making it more accessible for people to know what's going on within their state. So that's a lot of what we do. The Governor's Commission is made up entirely of volunteers, except for the 4 staff who are associated with the commission. So it's a lot of input from the disability community who care about them.
Yeah, and we do great work. So make sure you're contacting the GCD, which is the Governor's Commission on Disability, because everybody likes acronyms. You know, my dyslexia doesn't like that so much because I mess them up all the time. And I don't know what acronym I'm using for what, but it's all good. So bottom line, in a nutshell, for all of your needs on disability, employment, raising the bar, raising the money, getting hired, hiring somebody, becoming accessible, these are the 4 individuals that you need to contact. Kim from Perspectives Corporation, Rory from Access Point, Rhode Island, Key from the Fogarty Center, all of them from the Rhode Island APSE, me from RAMP, And if you didn't catch any of their websites or their organizations, just message me and I will put you in contact with these amazing people, because not only are they co-workers and friends, they are my friends, and they are people that I can call up and bother on a daily basis and ask dumb questions, because yes, we ask dumb questions. I had a long conversation with Rory earlier today, and her last word to me was, "Who's on your podcast tonight?" I'm like, I hope you know that, because it's you. So we had that conversation as well today. So Rhode Island APSE for businesses and people looking for employment, Perspectives Corporation, Access Point, Rhode Island, the Fogarty Center, and RAMP. I cannot thank you all enough for taking the time out tonight and being on our show tonight. It was so much fun. It will be live on our RAMP website momentarily at the end of this. It is also on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and everywhere else you could possibly use social media. We haven't been on TikTok yet because that's just one platform. I'm not going there. So it's all good. So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And like I say to next week's show is on Tuesday, not Wednesday, because on Wednesday I have to go and receive my award for the Christiana Bannister Award for Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity. So we will have our show on Toys for Tots, our 25th anniversary, collecting toys for tots here in Rhode Island on Tuesday, same time, same channel, just a day earlier, because we will be going live on Wednesday for the awards reception for the 6 honorees of the inaugural thing. And my date for the event is Lieutenant Governor Sabina Matos. So I got the best date going that night. So you can't ask for better than that as well, especially when you're talking about diversity and inclusion. Taking her along with you is not a bad idea. So thank you all. Don't just sit there, make a difference, and make sure you're contacting Rhode Island APSE, and we will see you all next week. Thank you and have a great night.